while you guys are going to be listening, what I'm going to show you and watching, I think you can just grab a glass of champagne and a little appetizer. So I know you had a long day, so we want to keep you starting.
No, and we want to know what was going on in your head when you built this amazing place.
Are you sure you want to know all of that? I don't know if I can explain that. So first of all, welcome to the Worre Studios. Thank you so much for coming. This is the space that has been created as the reaction to COVID. Because my husband and I, we run a company that does educational services and we do a lot of events. I've been in the events business for the last 13 years. The events we held started at MGM Garden Arena. I mean, one of the last events that we did was the MGM Garden Arena. We started at the Mirage at the time. Now they have a different name, but as you probably, in my understanding, a lot of you are in events business. So part of our business model was at the event itself, we would sell tickets for the next year. In 2019, in December, we pre-sold 7,000 tickets for the next year. The largest in-person event we had for our company was 18,000. We hosted at the convention center. As you probably know, if you work in the convention center, it's not the best experience for the audience, especially if you're talking about large numbers because of the pillars, because of the repeating screens and everything else, and it's a concrete jungle. So we moved from that space and did a lot of events in the MGM Garden Arena because we like the bowl side of things, so the audience can see, and it's still, even though you've lit 12, 15,000 people in there, you can still have kind of an intimacy, so to speak. So that was kind of like our latest venue, and when COVID hit, we pre-sold 7,000 tickets. Probably like the majority of the world, we were crossing our fingers and hoping for the best, and any moment they're going to open, and any moment that's going to change. And we know that didn't happen, so in the middle of the summer, my husband and I, we had a conversation, okay, we have to come up with some solution because there's no way we can host an event, at least for the 7,000 tickets that we already pre-sold, let alone for the additional tickets that we were hoping to sell through the rest of the year. So in summer of 2020, the idea of the studio came to life because we started seeing what some of our friends were doing, putting multiple TV screens together and doing kind of like bigger wall and trying to create something special. That's when the idea of the studio came about. And when I was building the studio, I didn't want to make it only for my use case, even though we host a lot of educational events, because I'm being an entrepreneur. I started my entrepreneurial journey since I was 18 years old, running multiple different businesses, and I realized that just like me having this type of problem, there are a lot of other businesses that have similar problems, especially the ones either in the events business or educational business or any other type of business that needs human gathering, and realizing how COVID changed, how the entire world perception and how we gather, how we go to work. I thought that events will change forever because more and more people realize to work from home and not necessarily going into the cubicle and finding ways to connect on Zoom. I saw that more likely a lot of jobs going to change and the way we see them going to change. And that made me think that the future of the event's going to change as well. So that's why when I was building the studio, I was thinking other people, other use cases, other entrepreneurs just like me needing them. That's why we put so much technology, way more than I personally and my business needed, so we can broadcast, so we can put the music, like different bands, have them do a concert from here. And Ryan will show you a little bit of the tech that we have. So there are two large screens, two big ones, as you can see, 74 feet long, 14 feet high, 1.9 resolution on these screens, and combined we have what, 11K?
Yeah, we do an 11K pixel resolution, and in total it's about 34,000.
Yeah, I might want to get another mic as well for this. So between the screens we have 11K. What is fun to work with the high resolution screens is you need to high resolution content. We will show you, we had the 4K video, which is still kind of a high resolution video, and it looks pretty pathetic on the screen. So every time we have people bringing their content, it's like, please make sure it's at least 8K, and we can take it even higher if you want to. So this is right now is the use case where we utilize the Zoom as the main entry point in the communication with the audience. What makes us different is the way to do dual communication, which is we can have a conversation with our audience, but they also can have a conversation with us. And you probably know as well as I do, keeping people's attention during the especially longer events is really hard. When we did our first event, first of all, we had at our first event here at the studio, we had 47,000 people connecting from all over the world, which was our highest attendance ever. At that time, we had translation for 9 languages. Me being not necessarily English native speaker, and you can probably hear by my accent, I wanted to make sure that we have the same experience for different language users, the same way that all English users would get. Some of you knowing Zoom probably, you know that translation happens through some of the Zoom channels. They drop down, and the host or co-host speaks into that Zoom room, and in most cases, that's the only thing the users or participants hear is just the voice. But what's happening on stage with the sound and claps and cheers and all the sound effects that are happening in addition, they cannot have that. So for me, it was important to make sure that we mix the translation in such a way that everybody, regardless of the language, they hear the same thing. So we utilize additional audio engineers to mix everything. So we have no latency with our translators. They're sitting all over the world, bringing us specific translation in whatever accent we need, potentially, or dialect that we need. So we carry that pretty significantly. So right now, as you can see, with the Zoom grid being on top, we can, through some of the canvas technology, we can manipulate and make them bigger, make them smaller. If you turn around, you see that wall behind you, they can be mirrored, or they can run completely different content on both of those, on all 4 walls. So if you go back, in the main wall right now, we've shown you that we can put the PowerPoint, we can put the presentation. If it's somebody who is remote, that also can be that person located anywhere in the world. Again, assuming they have a good internet connection, we have pretty much no latency, definitely not on our side. We can immediately unmute that person, that speaker, and have a real-time connection and conversation with them. So how are we using that technology during our events? Specifically, for example, if my husband and I or any other speaker were speaking on stage, we're delivering some kind of a content, and we're saying, so, hey Robin, like, what do you think about this? Like, do you have some comments on that, or have you had an aha moment, or whatever happened? So, and we giving our team, and I'll show you back there in a bit, what that looks like. So the team gets that as a cue. They pick potentially, let's say that Robin, and immediately they unmute her. They put her big on screen. We can make her bigger. We can make her smaller, and I immediately can start having a conversation with her. So that's what is creating such a unique conversational element with every participant, because typically, if you think of any arena or any event space, it's almost impossible to create a dialogue with the audience, because we always struggle if we have an event, for example, more than 2,000 people, you pretty much, first of all, don't see anybody beyond the 2, 3, 5 rows, depends on the lighting in an event space, and you don't see people's name, you don't know, you cannot really have that conversation. So what happens here is everybody has a front row seat. The largest event of my own that I did here was 180,000 people. It was a women empowerment event. So first of all, on one side, we saved a lot of money to our participants because they didn't have to travel, they didn't have to spend money on hotels, transportations, per diem, all those different things. And they were able to put that money back into their business, their families, whatever they wanted to, and still get the education. But what was really powerful and fun is, again, everybody were pretty much sitting on the edge of their seat, because every time we have this conversation, I call somebody's name. First of all, they do not know who I'm gonna call, right? So everybody's like, well, maybe it's me, maybe it's me. So they're already kind of like leaning a little bit more forward. to the content and the participation of the event. And as you can see, we can make those Zoom grids bigger, smaller, and Ryan, maybe show a couple different layouts. So again, I see in people's living rooms, and I can see their kids, and I can see their pets, and I can see that they're cooking something, and that also creates some kind of conversation and connection that you don't normally have. And people honestly freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, you see into my living room, you see my kids, you see my pets. So that creates a different level of engagement. Our events, we typically run them 3 days. There are people connecting from all over the world, from 100+ countries. That means that they're in different time zones. That means that somebody, when we start our event, they're either just woke up or they're just about to go to sleep. We had people from Australia staying up all night. We had people in South Africa, Europe, in Dubai staying up most of their nights just to kind of like fit into the time zone that we're utilizing the event, and we're trying to combine as many continents as possible, but it's not possible to do physically. So that shows us people are so engaged and so excited, and they just participate at the events differently. So because we're running on Unreal 5, we can do all kinds of content here, 3D content, we can do multiple layers of content. So this is one of the virtual environments that we created. You can, if you kind of like start paying attention to details, like on the table, for example, you will see our logo, and that's one of the ideas for the product placement. So whatever you're utilizing the environment for, you can put a product placement. If it's a book launch, you can put a book on the shelf. If it's something that you want to put on any of the pieces of furniture, you can do that as well. One of the features that I love is this painting. It looks like a painting, it looks like a part of the interior, but that painting can turn into a video feed pretty much in a split of a second, very easy. As you can see, Ryan is running everything from the small iPad. It's pretty cool and fun. Again, this video feed can be pre-planned video that you want to show, or it can be a remote speaker that is connecting from somewhere else, or it can be a PowerPoint, or it can be whatever you want it to be. On the right, you see, on my right, your right, you see the guy who is, again, it's the person who can be put in the green screen, whatever they are. If necessary, we can either send in the metrics or requirements of the green screen, or they can choose their own, or we can send them what's needed. And that person, again, remotely from anywhere else, can be placed into the 3D environment. Again, all the different areas of the space can be used. We can put the furniture, we can put people in there. We are typically, depends on the needs of the event, depends on how it's broadcasted. We're utilizing for our events, I like a lot of cameras, so we run sometimes 8, 12 cameras. Typically cameras can be standing 2 cameras there, 2 cameras on the back. We have a jib that is right up here, and it creates very unique kind of like flying shot, especially when we do the speaking events. People come from that side or this side, and the jib captures that entrance, creates a super cool visual effect, and people love that. So this is another 3D environment. Again, you can do different product placements. Again, those 2 paintings, pieces of art can be turned into the video stream, PowerPoints, whatever you want it to be. You can put people on the chairs. We can, Ryan, show you that couple people we can place pretty much anywhere in the environment. It depends on how you're shooting. We film the podcast here, we film a lot of different content here, that oftentimes people do not even understand that this is the stage and that's the screen. The way we shoot sometimes, they think that we are in that environment, which is pretty cool and exciting. So this is another 3D environment. You also saw prior the way we utilize for educational events or any other event that you would want to see the connection with the audience. We can throw the chat So we can, again, immediately start a conversation, because in the chat you immediately see if people are getting it, not getting it. You can ask them to put some action, like, hey, if you agree with me, put some 5 in the comments, or put some hearts in the comments. And that creates another engagement, because we are, I heard you say that we're in the business of wowing people, but we're also in the business, I think, that keeping their attention just like this. I know that one of the new strategies, especially for the video content, is doing a cut every 3 to 6 seconds to keep people's imagination, or not imagination, but attention. So with different ways of us reminding them that we are with them, that we are having a conversation, it creates that tension, and it creates that excitement for the audience. One of other things that we do, we can do different product launches. So this is one of the conversations that we had with Nike. A lot of you probably know, especially younger generation here, that Nike has their Air Jordan sneakers, that hot commodity for kids and younger generation. And unfortunately, these sneakers never hit the shelves of the stores because they're bought by bots in most cases, and the real fans have to pay 10, 100 times more for the sneakers. So one of the ideas was that we're going to create an event with Nike, one of their designers potentially, or Jordan, get them talk about, like, hey, this is the idea that came behind why we put this color or that letter or this design or whatever. So to create some kind of event that's going to be interesting for the fans. And once the fans are part of the event, Nike would allow them, as a part of their ticket purchase, to buy a sneaker at its actual price instead of overpaying hundreds and thousands of dollars. So because of pretty much immediate connection with the audience, immediate feedback with the audience, it can be used for market research, it can be used for product launches, it can be used for the trade shows, it can be used for, honestly, we were trying to think of the use case that we cannot do here, and we haven't come up with one yet. We did the book launch, we did Dell Computers did one of their gaming computers launches in here. They had a bunch of players on the screens, they had a DJ, and they actually chose not to utilize the interactivity component. They were just streaming to Twitch and Twitter, so we were streaming to about almost 14 million users on between those two platforms, which shows that the technology that we have here, we can go about 500,000 interactive, which means that what you see on the screen when I can talk or you can talk to any participants, we can go to up to 500,000. We can go to 250,000 from the studio, just utilizing the tech that we have here. And if we need an additional 250,000, we can go to the cloud and do that. And the stream is pretty much unlimited because, again, we have some broadcasting technology here that we can either go through our outlets, or if you want to come with your broadcasting truck, you can pretty much plug and play, and we can push anywhere. We did the UFC awards show here, and that was interesting because, first of all, the space where you guys are standing right now, that can be used for the audience participation, so we can use round tables, classroom, theater style, whatever the needs are, and depends on how many people are participating. If we go with theater style, we can fit up to 300 in this setting. If we want to fit 400, we can push the stage back a little bit and nobody even know that the stage is smaller, but we can fit about that amount of people. And you can have your audience participation. So when the UFC was doing their award ceremony, we were pushing it to ESPN, and we had to dumb down our quality multiple times because ESPN could not receive the high quality that we were sending it to them. So that's kind of like a fun breaking point for me. This is the 4K video. As you can see, it kind of could be better quality, but again, it's still possible. The ways that content can be utilized, like I said, the screens can be used separately, the screens can be used together. We can have 360 images running on all 4 screens. We can have just a particular content created for one of the walls or different walls. During the events, the side walls are typically used to announce the speaker, or if there is any commercial or any sponsor ad, something that can be utilized on the side screens. So this is one of the cool content pieces that we have. Again, between Canvas, we can create almost any kind of content the audience can imagine, specifically designed for their events. So, I don't know, I think I've covered almost everything. So if you guys have any questions, I can answer here, and I can show you what happens kind of like behind the scenes. So one of the reasons you see a lot of the not so much pipe, but so much drapes, because this is a 25,000 square foot facility, and depends on the needs of the particular event. We move the drapes in whatever way we need, so you can see or don't see the pieces and parts of the studio that you potentially don't need. Another cool feature is that wall moves. Originally when I built it, we kind of like think about the audience participation, so that wall was here, and as soon as we had our first event, while I was building the studio, I was improving it already, so I tasked my amazing engineers and teams that like, okay, what can we do to push the wall back? But guess what? I want it to go back and forth when I need to. And so when you walk, you sometimes hear a little metal rumbling. Those are the skates that are on the floor, and that's how the wall moves. The wall can actually move in 4.5 minutes, and we are not taking off the content of the wall, so we don't have to unplug anything. It takes way more time to take off the carpet than move the wall. So it's kind of like fun feature. Sometimes the use case for that is if you want to do like a Coliseum style event. We had recently a book launch. The person who was launching had about close to 500,000 people registered for their event, so they didn't need any audience, so they did the book launch, made a lot of money, and called it a day. So in pretty much 1.5 hours, they sold about 4 million copies of their book, which is pretty exciting. Imagine the amount of time and cities that you need to do to go on tour. Obviously, the person was a pretty significant influencer who had that type of audience, who could put it together. But it just, the leverage that we were able to create with the technology is super fun, because you don't need to do onesies and twosies anymore. You don't need to try and or be limited by the space and the audience that you can fit into that space. Because of the tech now, you can pretty much put as many people as you want to and create your event in a matter of 1 day, a couple hours, or whatever the purpose of the event is. We talking to different bands right now, to different groups, to do different concerts from here. So what is a lot of fun is oftentimes when we go to different concert arenas, concert halls, again, the performer does not necessarily see their audience. They cannot see their eyes, they cannot necessarily know their name, so they're kind of like limited to, like I said before, to the lights of the first, third, fifth row, and that's about it. One of the examples I had, we went to a concert to see Mick Jagger at the Raiders Stadium, and we had those kind of fancy seats in the box, right? So those are fancy when you watch football, but they're horrible when you're watching the concert, because Mick Jagger was like this big. So I ended up watching him on a huge LED screen, and I was like, okay, except a little bit of the energy and the sound, I pretty much could have been better off sitting in my home and watching the concert. And what is sad for me, knowing what I know here and experiencing this, he will never know my name. He will never look me in the eye, because he will never see me. And I also understand as speaker, as talent, we often underestimate that the connection that the speaker or the talent is looking for in the exchange of energy with their fans. So I would imagine Mick Jagger would want to see some of his fans, you know, and their reaction, and their faces, and their tears of joy, or or their smiles and whatever it might be. So when we're putting them like this, they can see it, they can have this conversation, they will see their names, they will have that intimate connection that they typically cannot have in huge stadiums. One other feature that I forgot to mention is we do what we call breakout sessions, which is very powerful when you do the educational events or any event where you need to break the group into smaller audiences. For example, again, whatever content is happening on stage, you can say, we can either break people based on the ticketing level, because first of all, we can make them even on the screens look different. We can separate them, let's say the middle row can be the VIP ticket, and the smaller boxes can be the general admission ticket. And everybody who's sitting in the audience here is a platinum ticket, or whatever you want to do. So first of all, you have a differentiator to charge different price points based on the ticketing level. And you also can curate different experiences based on those different tickets levels. So for example, in our events, we do, during the lunch breaks, we do what we call Q&A with the speaker or the talent or whoever is running the event. And we break them in a smaller room. And that speaker or that talent have the ability to communicate with that group, give them assignments, get their feedback, and then that small group, and the group can be as little as 2 people and pretty much as large as we want it to have. And then when the assignment is done, we bring them back to what we call main stage on the screens. And then again, the speaker can have like, okay, what was the aha moment? And again, start the conversation, pin somebody big on the screens. We can put multiple pins, multiple people. You can have like a panel discussion here and bounce from one person to another person. And create that, again, interactivity piece that normally does not happen in any live event. So, yeah, you guys have any questions before I show you some cool stuff behind?